The crystalline spires of New Geneva's interstellar embassy gleamed in the setting sun as Cassandra Reed adjusted her formal attire. Her heart raced beneath the calm exterior she maintained as lead xenoanthropologist for the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Today marked her 10th year studying alien cultures, but nothing had prepared her for the assignment that awaited. "Dr. Reed, the Valerian delegation has arrived," her assistant's voice chimed through the calm. Cassandra took a deep breath, smoothing her dark hair as she strode toward the reception hall. The Valerians were among the most enigmatic species humanity had encountered, their civilization far older than Earth's, their technology beyond current human understanding. The embassy doors parted silently, revealing the delegation. Cassandra's attention immediately fixed on their lead representative, Theron. Unlike the other Valerians, whose skin shimmered with subtle bioluminescence, his held a deeper, almost opalescent quality. His movements carried a grace that seemed to defy gravity, and when his silver eyes met hers, Cassandra felt as though the air had been drawn from her lungs. "Dr. Reed," he spoke, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that the universal translator couldn't quite capture. "Your reputation precedes you. I trust you'll find our proposal intriguing." He extended a hand in the human gesture of greeting, a studied movement that spoke of careful preparation. The proposal was unprecedented. The Valerians offered to share their knowledge of psychic resonance technology, but they would only work with Cassandra. Their explanation was cryptic. They claimed she possessed a unique frequency they had never encountered in a human before. As the formal introductions proceeded, Cassandra noticed subtle details about Theron that her years of training helped her recognize: the way his secondary breathing slits fluttered when their eyes met, the slight tilt of his head when she spoke. These were signs of intense interest among Valerians, though she couldn't fathom why she warranted such attention. The evening progressed through carefully choreographed diplomatic exchanges, but beneath the formal veneer, Cassandra sensed something more. When Theron approached her later at the embassy's botanical garden, away from the watchful eyes of both human and Valerian observers, his demeanor shifted. "There is more to our selection of you than we revealed in the formal proposal," he admitted, his bioluminescence pulsing with what Cassandra recognized as uncertainty. "Your mind, it resonates at a frequency we believed impossible for your species. It calls to us, to me, in ways I cannot fully explain." Cassandra's scientific training warred with the inexplicable pull she felt toward him. "What exactly are you suggesting, Ambassador Theron?" His response came not in words but in a gentle psychic touch, a capability the Valerians had never before revealed to humans. Images flooded her mind, a vast network of consciousness spanning galaxies, the profound loneliness of being the only one of his kind who could perceive certain frequencies, and the shock of discovering a human who could potentially understand. "We face a crisis," he continued, his mental touch retreating. "Our civilization's psychic network is deteriorating. The resonance that connects our people is failing. But your unique frequency might hold the key to saving not just our communication network, but our entire way of life." The weight of his words settled over her like a cosmic dust cloud. This wasn't just about diplomatic relations or technological exchange, it was about the survival of an entire civilization. And somehow, she stood at the center of it all. As the garden's bioluminescent flowers pulsed around them, Cassandra made a decision that would alter not only her fate but potentially the course of human-Valerian relations. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her soul. "If there's a chance I can help, I need to understand what we're facing." Theron's relief manifested in waves of soft light rippling across his skin. As he began to explain, neither of them noticed the shadow that passed over the garden's transparent dome, a shadow that would soon prove to be the harbinger of complications neither of them could have anticipated. The private research facility nestled in the Swiss Alps hummed with activity as Cassandra worked alongside Theron. 2 months had passed since their first meeting, and each day brought new discoveries, and new complications. "The resonance patterns are stabilizing," Theron observed, his bioluminescence creating dancing patterns across the laboratory's walls. His hand hovered over the crystalline interface of their shared workstation, where holographic representations of psychic frequencies swirled in complex patterns. Cassandra nodded, trying to ignore the way her skin tingled whenever he stood close. But we're still missing something crucial. The degradation in your people's network continues, even if we've slowed it. She pressed her palm against the cool surface of the quantum resonator, feeling the subtle vibrations that had become familiar over weeks of testing. Their work together had revealed an unexpected truth. Cassandra's unique neurological pattern could indeed interface with Valerian technology, but the process was far more intimate than either had anticipated. Each session required a deep mental connection between them, one that left lingering echoes of emotion neither could fully dismiss. "There's something you're not telling me," Cassandra said softly, turning to face him. In the dim light of the lab, his opalescent skin seemed to capture and reflect her own thoughts back at her. "I can feel it in the resonance when we connect." Theron's secondary breathing slits fluttered, a sign of distress she'd learned to recognize. "The Council, they've expressed concerns about the depth of our connection. Some believe we're growing too close, that it might compromise the purity of the research." Before Cassandra could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Red warning lights bathed the laboratory in crimson as Security Chief Julian Rodriguez burst through the door, his face grave. "We've got incoming," Julian announced, his hand resting on his pulse weapon. 3 unmarked ships just entered Earth's atmosphere, headed straight for us. They're using stealth tech we've never seen before. Theron's skin pulsed with patterns Cassandra had never witnessed, fear mixed with something darker. "The Shadowed Ones," he whispered. "They found us." "The who?" Cassandra demanded, but deep in her mind, she felt an echo of understanding through her connection with Theron, ancient enemies of the Valerians, beings who sought to destroy the psychic network that bound their civilization together. "We need to move," Julian insisted, already activating the facility's defense protocols. "Dr. Reed, the safe room." "No," Theron interrupted, his voice carrying harmonics of urgency. "They'll have ways past your defenses. Our only chance is to complete the binding." Cassandra's heart raced. "The binding? You said that procedure was theoretical, that we weren't ready." "We're out of time." Theron reached for her hands, his touch sending cascades of sensation through their shared psychic link. "The Shadowed Ones will destroy everything we've built, everything we could become. The only way to protect the network, to protect us, is to fully merge our resonance patterns." Julian stepped forward, protective instincts evident in his stance. "Dr. Reed, we can't be sure." "I trust him," Cassandra said firmly, though her voice trembled slightly. She could feel the truth of Theron's words through their connection, could sense the desperate need to act before it was too late. The facility shuddered as the first impacts struck their defensive shields. Theron led Cassandra to the quantum resonator, his movements swift but gentle. "This will change everything," he warned, his silver eyes meeting hers. "There will be no going back." "I know," she replied, placing her hands on the crystalline surface as she had done countless times before. But this time was different. This time, they would push past all the barriers they'd carefully maintained. As the sounds of battle echoed through the facility, Theron's consciousness merged with hers. The universe seemed to expand and contract around them, filled with impossible colors and frequencies of thought she'd never imagined. In that moment of perfect unity, Cassandra understood everything, the true nature of the Valerian network, the threat they faced, and the real reason the Shadowed Ones had come. They weren't just after the network. They were after her, and the unique power she didn't even know she possessed until this moment of complete clarity. Through their merged consciousness, a single thought echoed, "Together, then." Together, she agreed, as their combined energy began to pulse with a light that would change the course of both their species forever. The aftermath of the binding left Cassandra and Theron's consciousness intertwined in ways neither had anticipated. The Shadowed One's attack had been repelled, but the price of victory echoed through every cell of Cassandra's transformed being. "The molecular reconstruction is unprecedented," Dr. Vivian Park muttered, studying the holographic displays floating above Cassandra's medical pod. Your DNA hasn't just been altered, it's evolving in real time. Cassandra watched as faint patterns of light rippled beneath her skin, a visible manifestation of her merged connection with Theron. The binding had changed her physically, introducing traces of Valerian bioluminescence into her human physiology. And the psychic network? Stabilized, Theron answered from his position by the window, where the Alps stretched out under a blanket of snow. But the Council is disturbed by the extent of our merger. They believed the binding would be temporary. Security Chief Rodriguez entered the medical bay, his usual confident stride betraying hints of tension. We've got bigger problems. The Shadowed Ones left something behind during their retreat, some kind of quantum beacon. It's broadcasting on frequencies we can't block. Cassandra sat up, ignoring Dr. Park's protests. Through her enhanced senses, she could feel the beacon's disruptive pulse, like a splinter in reality itself. More concerning was what she sensed through her connection with Theron, his fear, not for himself, but for what the beacon represented. They're calling others, Theron confirmed her unspoken thought. This was never just about destroying the network. They want to study what we've become. What exactly have we become? Cassandra asked, though part of her already knew. The binding had created something entirely new, a bridge between human and Valerian consciousness that shouldn't have been possible. Before Theron could respond, pain lanced through their shared connection. Cassandra doubled over as images flooded her mind, vast fleets of crystalline ships, beings of shadow and void, and at the center of it all, a terrible hunger for understanding. They're coming, she gasped. Not just a few ships this time. An armada. Dr. Park's instruments began blaring alerts as Cassandra's vital signs fluctuated. Whatever this connection is, it's putting immense strain on your system. We need to find a way to stabilize it or it will burn me out, Cassandra finished. She could feel it now, the way her human physiology struggled to contain the vastness of the Valerian consciousness she shared with Theron. Julian stepped forward, his tactical mind already working. How long do we have? 3 days, perhaps 4, Theron answered, moving to Cassandra's side. His proximity eased the strain somewhat, their energies naturally synchronizing. But there might be a solution. In our oldest archives, there are records of a place, a nexus point where the barriers between physical and psychic reality are thinner. The Resonance Temple, Cassandra whispered, the knowledge flowing from his mind to hers. In the Moravian system. It's a restricted zone, Julian objected. Even with diplomatic clearance. We don't have a choice, Cassandra cut in. Either we find a way to stabilize this connection, or when the Shadowed Ones arrive, they'll tear us apart trying to understand it. And then they'll use that knowledge to destroy everything. Dr. Park studied her readings again. The cellular degradation is accelerating. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen soon. Through their bond, Cassandra felt Theron's resolve crystallize. He turned to Julian, his silver eyes intense. We'll need a ship. Something fast, something that can slip past both Earth and Valerian security protocols. Julian's expression hardened. You're talking about stealing a military vessel. I'm talking about saving 2 civilizations, Theron corrected. The Shadowed Ones won't stop with us. Once they understand how to manipulate the binding process, they'll use it as a weapon. Cassandra stood, steadying herself against the medical pod. Each movement sent ripples of light cascading through her altered body. Julian, please. You've seen what they're capable of. We need your help. The security chief was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving between Cassandra and Theron. Finally, he nodded. There's a prototype stealth cruiser in the underground hangar. Experimental tech, meant for deep space reconnaissance. I can get you access, but after that, you're on your own. Not entirely on their own, Dr. Park interjected, already gathering supplies. Someone needs to monitor Cassandra's condition, make sure the binding doesn't tear her apart before you reach this temple. As the others prepared for their unauthorized mission, Cassandra and Theron shared a moment of silent communion. Through their connection, she felt his guilt at bringing this danger to Earth, his fear for her safety, and underneath it all, an emotion that transcended species barriers, one that neither of them dared name aloud. "We'll find a way," she assured him, both in words and thought. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." The lights in the medical bay flickered as another pulse from the quantum beacon washed over the facility. Time was running out, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the shadowed ones were gathering, drawn by the impossible union of two beings who dared to bridge the gap between their worlds. The stolen prototype ship, which Julian had designated Starcross, cut through hyperspace like a phantom. In the medical bay, Dr. Park monitored Cassandra's increasingly unstable vital signs while Theron piloted, his consciousness partially merged with the ship's systems. "Her molecular structure is breaking down faster than anticipated," Dr. Park announced, adjusting another treatment parameter. "The binding is trying to complete itself, but her human physiology can't handle the transformation." Through the haze of pain, Cassandra watched streams of light pulse beneath her skin. Each wave brought new agony as her body struggled to adapt to its changing nature. How long until we reach the temple?" 6 hours, Theron's voice echoed both in her ears and mind. "But we have company." The ship's sensors detected multiple vessels emerging from hyperspace, sleek, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The shadowed ones had found them. "They're not trying to stop us," Cassandra realized, reading the tactical data through their shared consciousness. "They're hurting us." Theron's confirmation came with a surge of protective fury. "They want us to reach the temple. They believe they can use its power to extract our binding for study." Dr. Park's instruments shrieked as Cassandra's vital signs spiked. "Whatever we're going to do, it needs to happen soon. Her organic systems are failing." The pursuing ships maintained their distance, forming a precise pattern around the Starcross. Through their increasingly volatile connection, Cassandra sensed Theron's desperate plan forming. "There's something I haven't told you," he admitted, both aloud and through their bond. "The temple doesn't just stabilize psychic energy. It's a nexus of transformation. The original Valerians used it to transcend their physical forms. And you think it could help us?" Dr. Park asked, her scientific curiosity warring with concern. "It could destroy us," Theron corrected. "Or transform us into something beyond either human or Valerian understanding. The records aren't clear about what happened to those who underwent the process." Cassandra fought through another wave of pain to speak. "The shadowed ones, they don't want to stop the transformation. They want to witness it." "Correct," Theron confirmed. "They believe studying our transcendence will give them the key to controlling both physical and psychic reality." The ship shuddered as they dropped out of hyperspace. Through the viewport, a massive structure became visible, the Resonance Temple, its crystalline spires twisting in ways that defied Euclidean geometry. Ancient symbols pulsed along its surface, responding to their presence. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace," Theron announced. "The shadowed ones are surrounding the temple." Dr. Park's expression was grim as she studied Cassandra's readings. "We don't have a choice anymore. Her body is going to fail within the hour if we don't do something." Through their bond, Cassandra felt Theron's anguish, and his determination. "There's one other option," he said softly. "I could sever the binding. It would save your life, though it would mean losing everything we've become." "No," Cassandra's response came instantly, both in word and thought. "We finish this together. Whatever we become." The Starcross glided toward the temple's main entrance as the Shadowed One's vessels held their positions, watching, waiting. Inside the ship, Cassandra's transformed cells continued their relentless evolution, pushing her human form to its absolute limits. Dr. Park helped Cassandra stand, supporting her as waves of light rippled through her nearly translucent skin. "Whatever happens in there," the doctor said, "know that you've already made history." The first true bridge between our species. Theron joined them, his own bioluminescence synchronizing with Cassandra's painful pulses. Together, they made their way to the airlock, preparing to board the ancient structure that might offer salvation or oblivion. As the temple's entrance irised open, Cassandra and Theron shared one last moment of pure connection, their merged consciousness touching something vast and infinite. In that instant, they understood that whatever waited within the temple's depths would transform not just them, but the very nature of human-Valerian relations forever. The question was, would that transformation bring enlightenment or destruction? Inside the Resonance Temple, reality itself seemed to bend and flow. Crystalline pathways pulsed with ancient power as Cassandra and Theron made their way toward its heart, Dr. Park following with her medical scanner giving increasingly erratic readings. The temple is responding to your combined frequencies, Dr. Park observed, watching as patterns of light rippled through the walls in sync with Cassandra's deteriorating condition. It's like it's trying to communicate. Through their bond, Cassandra and Theron began to understand the temple's purpose. It wasn't just a place of transformation, it was a gateway, designed to bridge the gap between physical existence and pure energy. The central chamber, Theron guided them, his own luminescence growing brighter with each step. That's where the original Valerians performed their transcendence ritual. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in shadows above. In the center, a column of pure light rose from floor to infinity. As they approached, symbols on the walls began to glow, responding to their presence. Suddenly, darkness seeped through the temple's crystalline walls. The shadowed ones had breached the outer chambers. They're trying to contain the chamber's energy, Theron realized, his voice tight with urgency. To control the transformation. Cassandra stumbled, her transformed body nearly transparent now. We need to complete the binding before she collapsed, caught between Theron and Dr. Park. Her cellular structure is collapsing, Dr. Park announced, her scanner flashing critical warnings. Whatever you're going to do, it has to be now. The darkness crept closer, taking form, the shadowed ones emerged as tall, shifting figures of void and starlight. Their presence seemed to drain energy from the chamber itself. But they had miscalculated. Through their perfect union of consciousness, Cassandra and Theron understood what the temple truly was, not just a tool for transformation, but a nexus point where all frequencies of existence converged. The shadowed ones sought to control this power, but control was never the point. Trust, Cassandra whispered, reaching for Theron's hand as her physical form began to dissolve into pure light. That's what they never understood. Their merged consciousness expanded, touching the temple's ancient energies. The shadowed ones rushed forward, but it was too late. The binding that had begun as an experiment in survival became something more, a bridge not just between two beings, but between all forms of existence. Dr. Park shielded her eyes as Cassandra and Theron's forms became pure energy, their combined consciousness reaching out to touch the very fabric of reality. The shadowed one's attempts to contain the power shattered against the force of their transformation. In that moment of transcendence, their united consciousness touched every mind in both human and Valerian space. Not to control or dominate, but to share understanding, to show that true power came not from manipulation, but from connection. The shadowed ones, faced with this revelation, began to dissolve, their very nature transformed by the truth they had sought to control. When the light finally faded, the temple chamber was changed. Where Cassandra and Theron had stood, a new form of consciousness existed, neither human nor Valerian, but a bridge between all forms of existence. Dr. Park's scanner detected new frequencies emanating from the temple, rippling out across space. The psychic network that bound Valerian society was not just stabilized but transformed, now accessible to humans who showed the right resonance. And somewhere, in a realm beyond physical form, Cassandra and Theron's consciousness remained united, their love and trust becoming the foundation for a new era of human-Valerian relations, proof that the greatest power in the universe came not from dominance, but from the courage to bridge the spaces between worlds. The Starcross would return to Earth carrying Dr. Park and news of a transformation that would change both civilizations forever. The Resonance Temple remained, its ancient purpose fulfilled, a beacon for others who might someday choose to follow the path of transcendence. In the years that followed, the story of Cassandra and Theron became legend, a testament to the power of trust, love, and the courage to become something more than the sum of one's parts. End of story.